how about we start with, can you tell us the earliest creative piece that you remember writing?
I think the earliest thing that I remember crafting was actually something my mom wrote down because I couldn't write at the time. And she used to keep track of my poetry when I was like 3 or
Oh.
4. Um, and it was a little piece about a mouse and a spider who loved apple cider. And it went on from there. I have it saved in a book somewhere, and it's pretty cute for like, a 4-year-old rhyme.
That's great.
Oh my goodness, that's so lovely. That's like your own archive. How beautiful. Um, I guess kind of maybe keeping with the maybe childhood memory or even adult memory. Curious about what kind of character, literary or film character, that you wish was a real life person who could be your best friend that you could just, hit up on speed dial.
I think may sound silly, but I'm gonna go for it. Um, there's a character in Animal Crossing, and his name is Hopkins, and he's the most chill, relaxed, fun character, and he's always talking to the bugs in the floor. I feel like he's got this big imagination, and when I'm like stressed or something, I just think about, wonder what he's up to right now. I would love to have him on speed dial. He has the greatest ideas. It's
That's,
pretty silly, but the characters in Animal Crossing are actually very interesting.
that's great. Um, so sort of keeping with favorites, I wonder if you might talk about some of your favorite writers, maybe some of your, the writers that have stayed with you, or who you're reading right now. Any kind of names you want to throw out?
Well, I'm always reading Stephen King. That's just an always on the list. Definitely a
Oh, I
favorite.
didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I always have that in my queue. And I've been reading a lot of N.K. Jemisin, who's been my favorite for the last couple years. Everything she produces is really thoughtful and energetic, and just there's a lot of wisdom that I think we don't get in books that aren't dealing with, or in books that are science fiction based, but not necessarily, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like generally, when you think about science fiction, what the biggest audience is going to go for is not what I want to read. I want to read something that challenges me, and Jameson challenges perceptions.
Sheree Clark, who was the associate director um, before Lauren, and a couple of years ago, she always talked about her as being a really immersive writer.
Mhm.
You just really go way down in the well of her work.
It's
It's
definitely a
interesting.
different world, a different feeling, a different reading experience than what I'm used to, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's lovely. I mean, so much of our work as writers also come from, what we read. And so I was curious if you could talk a little bit about kind of for you what your generation process is. If you have books on the table nearby, if you have food or drink that you always have to have nearby, pens or pencils that you use, specific paper? Like, are there any kind of rituals that you engage in while you're generating new work?
I love that basic black Bic pen. it's so it's so great. I use the same one at work, and just all day, every day. I always have a cup of coffee, either accessible or in the process of being made. And that's pretty much just me, coffee, and a big pen, and I'm good.
That's very low tech, Shawna. That's very, you can take that anywhere.
Yeah, that's the idea. I want to be able to write anytime, anywhere. And I was um, I was a person who often wrote on like the dirty napkins, and then sort of had a stash of dirty napkins that I would go through and then put my thoughts together in something tidier. but the thoughts are always untidy when they start. So I just have been rolling with it.
Now, Shawna and I were actually in workshop together in the MFA program way
Oh,
back in the day. So I'm really curious, Shawna, about how you, as you've become a sort of, as you've become a teacher and you sort of mentor other writers, you know, I wonder what you feel like you get out of that process, and what kind of what's the key to making a good class or a good workshop successful.
Trust is the key. Since I'm
Mhm.
teaching writing through trauma, most of the time people are coming in with something that they need to be able to trust me, and I need to be able to trust them to tell me what their boundaries are and what their needs are, because it does end up being a group therapy like situation. It's
Yeah.
not therapy, but it is a tool that we are using with therapeutic purpose or intent. And I think for me, writing is where I find my joy. I reframe everything in my life that I may not be very happy with. I get to cast it in a new light and look at it from a different angle. Writing allows me to do that, and it allows me to lock in a new storyline. And that is something that I get to share with everyone I write with and everyone I teach. And it's the most amazing experience seeing people make a shift from one story to another when it's ultimately the same story. It's just a new perspective.
Mm.
wow. Trust as the key. I guess kind of dovetailing off of that, what have you received as a student in this kind of scenario with either a mentor or in a class or in a workshop, where someone gave you advice that you could trust, that felt very evocative for you, or resonant? And then I guess the second part of that would be, what advice then do you pass on to emerging writers?
The best piece of advice that I've been given still is what Tony Artizzoni said in the first day of our first MFA workshop, which was to practice silence, to
Mm.
sometimes be quiet, to not just emotionally word vomit your stories out there. And because I'm working with stories that are very emotionally intense, taking that time to reflect on which words we want to use to put it down is there's nothing that has served me better with students or for myself.
Mm.
And how do you think you have and how does your editing or revision process go after you've sat with it and you're ready to look at it in earnest again? What is your editing process like?
um, editing, editing happens when I feel like I can risk somebody seeing my work, and I do have a trusted circle. And different. I write a lot of different things, so I have different people for the different types of writing I do. Um, it is it's always a bit touch and go. I have people that I've primed them so that if I'm going to be working on a piece, I'll say, this is the feedback I'm looking for. Can you please say it in this nice way so that I don't get scared and
Yeah.
never ever look at this again? But for the most part, it's just, it is again, it comes back to trust. If I trust you with my work, then I trust you to give me good feedback on my work, and then I can from there move forward. I won't say I'm great at the moving forward part. I am definitely great at generating and generating and generating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easier to move forward with nonfiction than with fiction for me. I think
Mm.
it's everything I write has already ended. It's already happened. So there's a
Mm.
natural conclusion. But with fiction, I can just keep generating it forever. I never want to stop.
Wow. Well, I mean, with that said, how do you balance all of these things? You're generating work, you're leading classes, teaching workshops. What is kind of the managing deadline life like for you as a writer?
Sundays are my deadline days for teaching and for writing.
Mm.
I try to stay involved with at least one writing group at a time that it has nothing to do with my teaching. So, and I try to keep that deadline Sunday night, Monday morning. And that way I can go through all my student responses that I need to do, because generally I teach about 3 students at a time on a 6-week cycle. And so I can go through all my student responses, and then I can, or before, depending on what I need, generate my own material and just have it ready to go so that I know if I didn't do it Sunday night, I'm waking up before work Monday morning and getting it done there.
That's great. That's wow. That's an ambitious schedule. Well, we have one more question with we've been kind of using as a kind of outro question, which is, what do you have a sort of post-COVID dream travel destination in mind?
First Greece and then the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Why
sounds
Greece?
I've always wanted to see it. It's adjacent to my Lebanese cultural heritage, and it is not quite the Europe experience.
Mhm.
so, so it's something that's on the edges of everything that I want to do.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, let us know.
Yeah.
So we'd like to travel too.
Post pictures.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Shoot time.
Thank you so much, and it's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Be in touch soon. Okay.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.